Mark, you mentioned that number, 183. How did we arrive at that figure?
The usual equation is 1 civilian equals 30 prisoners. So today that should have been 90. If you'd use that calculation. You don't need to be a genius in maths, and I'm certainly not one of those. But what we've got is 183. That's a doubling of the process. This has been done in some kind of concession in order to try to keep faith between the two sides.
Now, in the second week, Israeli forces had also said the same type of thing, that they do not want these prisoners to be greeted by large crowds. However, they were. This is occupied territory. The Palestinians want to greet their prisoners. Again, we've been reporting the issue of prisoners tugs at the heartstrings of Palestinians because everybody knows someone who is either detained or has a relative who's been arrested. And Israeli forces this week have spread the same message, even dropping flyers across the occupied West Bank, warning Palestinians not to celebrate, warning them not to carry any sort of banner or flag representative of any sort of Palestinian fighting group or faction, saying that they are being watched and there would be repercussions if they did just that.
Greetings one and all. Super Tuesdays here in the Holy Land, in the holy city of Elon Moreh Shechem, right by my holy yeshiva. We are on the 6th day of Shvat 5785. Before we start, as always, this class is for the sake of heaven, to improve ourselves. One small step in our days, one small step is one big step. To remove the divine presence from the exile, to unite it. And with that said, thanking the master of the world, we also thank our sponsor channel, the great channel of Mike, the great volunteer organizations that he has in protecting settlements, training dogs to protect settlements in Judea and Samaria, and his unbelievable volunteer group that searches for missing people all over Israel. So if you've gone missing, give him a call. Last but not least, the greatest blog, Palm Tree of Deborah. That's one word in Hebrew, Tomer, Devorah. If you have some time, then that's where you should be. And if you don't have time, try to make some time for that blog. Okay, today's class, this might be 2 parts. We'll see how it plays out. This will be the spiritual connection between the hostage release, the prisoner release, and the upcoming holiday of Tu BiShvat, the 15th day of the month of Shvat. So let's put the cards on the table. Let's look into reality, our situation. We have reached the bottom, or whenever you think you've reached the bottom, sometimes there's a new bottom that is created. I remember when I first 10 years that I was in Israel, they created a new red line for the Galilee Sea. There was it was at a certain level. That was the red line. But they created a new red line, which was, of course, below that. So it could always, it could always get worse. But the feeling is that we've really reached rock bottom. We were on the cusp of annihilating the Hezbollah in Lebanon, of course, a part of the land of Israel. And they were on the verge of collapse. And into the rescue comes the Americans, as always, trying to make sure that the Jews will not achieve victory. And successful, again, success breeds success, and we pull out of Lebanon, enabling our enemies to regroup, reorganize, and as they say, run away or cease fire away to fight another day. Same story in the southern part of Israel, Gaza, also part of the land of Israel. 15 months of fighting, perhaps on the verge of losing the Arabs. Once again, Americans to the rescue, ceasefire, pull out the Jewish troops from Gaza. We see right away Hamas pops up in charge, on the streets, organized. Darlings of the so-called civil population, those that are non-combatant. Person asks themselves, many are asking, many parents, many relatives, many friends, what exactly did my loved one give his life for? Hundreds of Jews gave their lives in order to annihilate Gaza, in order to be certain that never again will October 7th, Simchat Torah, reoccur. How many times have we gone in and out, in and out, in and out, enabling them to reorganize, to rearm themselves, ammunition? Person, you just want to cry. For what? What did they give their lives for? 1,000+ terrorists being released. Many of them life sentences. I don't like the term blood on their hand because of the fact that they weren't successful. That doesn't mean they don't have blood on their hands. As we know, Talmud teaches us that if a non-Jew has intention, that is considered to be an action, even if the intention never becomes an action. They were caught, whatever it might have been, something went wrong. So I do not ever make that differentiation because it doesn't exist. But to see them back on the streets, celebrating the in-your-face for victory, to hear the pathetic so-called leaders of Israel sending via a drone, flyers down to the Arabs, not to celebrate, not to show any signs of support, not to bring out the flags of the various factions of the Muslims fighting to annihilate the Jewish people. This is pathetic, more than pathetic. Go back to the beginning of the class. Listen, there's an order to what I brought. Listen. Listen to the goodwill of these so-called leaders. The reporter was asked, how come there were 183? And then he said, you know, you're right, because it's really one civilian for 30 prisoners, 30 Arab prisoners. So there should have been 90. So why was it doubled? As a goodwill gesture. Got that? A Holocaust was perpetrated against the Jewish people 16 months ago. Goodwill. We've lost it. We've totally lost our minds. In Israel, media, the same media who shoved down our face day in, day out, hour in, hour out, pushing the hostage deal down our throats. Their agenda, day in and day out, and also now, full of, if you look, you would think that Israel just finished Entebbe and were victorious and redeemed and freed the hostages. Not for murderers, not for putting the state of Israel in existential danger. And they're into this festival. This festival. That will be a separate class. Just want to say, of course, it goes without saying, that whenever a Jew who was in dire straits is out of that dire straits, we are all happy for that person. It also goes without saying that if I was in a position, I was tossed out of the army, so I'm not in that position, to go and try to free via a battle the hostages, I would be more than happy to sacrifice myself for them. Goes without saying. However, what was done here, what we've seen, this surrender to terrorists, the same Israel who for decades had a policy which sanctified God's name all through the world. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Israel today on their knees. Israel warning, what a joke. They're laughing all the way home. Israel warning not to celebrate. We see the tremendous celebrations, the fireworks, the whole 9 yards. You're pathetic. Our leadership, pathetic. Idit Bar, in Israel, perhaps the #1 expert on Islam. She was recently interviewed, and she spoke about 3 principles in dealing in order to be victorious over the Muslims in this battle. I'm going to touch upon two. Number one, in order to defeat the Muslims, the Arabs, you must take their land. They must lose their land. This is an amazing concept. The hardest hit, the biggest defeat, the weakest point with the Arabs is if you take their so-called land. You were victorious. That is the biggest defeat. You could kill them, that's not a defeat. Not at all. They're looking to die. They're looking to become martyrs. That's not a victory at all. It's their victory in their eyes. Folks, we were inside all of Gaza, Central Gaza, North Gaza, South. We were in Lebanon, parts of the land of Israel. And anyone that spoke about settling and expelling the enemies of the Jewish people, they were brushed off as extremists, as religious zealots. And here, a woman who's not religious, Edith Bar, telling us to defeat the Muslim enemy, you must take their property, their land. Who are the zealot idiots? Not the religious people and not those calling for the expulsion of the hostile Muslim population and settling the land of Israel, reconnecting to the land of Israel. This is, folks, this is exactly what happened in the various wars. Who lived there? The Arabs lived there. And we turned the Arab villages and cities into Beersheba and Ashdod and Ashkelon. Where does the Knesset, what land does the Knesset sit on? On an Arab village that was defeated in 1948. Look it up, check it out, right on that Arab village. I don't exactly remember the name of it, perhaps Shahbadar, something to that, check it out. Second point that Edith Bar, the expert on Islam, pointed out, intimidation, trepidation. The Arabs have to be intimidated. Say what? Intimidated? They're laughing. They're laughing at us with the V's in our face, reorganizing, fighting again, arming again. They are laughing at us. You want to defeat the Jewish state? Kidnap one or two people. You know, there's a question, according to the Torah, do we have to go out and conquer the land of Israel? That's a discussion on its own. But when you're right inside and you've been attacked, you were attacked, you were killed, you were raped, you were mutilated, you were burnt, you're right there. You're inside. There is no greater desecration of God's name that their land, so to speak, was not taken away from them, and we annex it into the land of Israel. There was no greater desecration of God's name. Speaking of desecration, a mother has to get up in front of Israel and plead to the media not to film the release of their daughter on Shabbat. A girl who gave her life. She sacrificed herself to keep Shabbat. And a mother has to plead. Oh, how many people in Israel gave her hell, embarrassed her. +400 days in captivity. Let's desecrate the Shabbat. In 1948, the British mandate ended on Friday night, 12 a.m., which is Saturday morning. David Ben-Gurion, the Prime Minister of Israel, decided that he did not want to desecrate Shabbat and wait till the British mandate was finished. He decided to call a meeting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It lasted for about 32 minutes in order not to desecrate Shabbat. Now, David Ben-Gurion, we could do a lot of stuff, a lot of bad stuff about him. Yet, there are a lot of good things to learn from him. That's one of them. Number two, David Ben-Gurion, in 1965, with the death of Winston Churchill, state heads were all transported. It was on Shabbat. Were all transported via important vehicles to the funeral of Churchill, except for one, David Ben-Gurion. He walked the whole way in order not to desecrate Shabbat. Did Israel stand up and say, let them go early, on Friday, on Thursday, on Sunday? They've been there for over 400 days. They made it that far. In 1976, Israel brought over the first F-15 jets from America, 1976. There was some kind of delay. So it came late Friday afternoon into Shabbat. The government of Israel fell, 1976. The government of Israel fell 50 years ago because of the fact that they desecrated Shabbat. And it wasn't planned. It wasn't supposed to play out that way. But things are delayed. There was a time when the so-called leaders, there was a respect for the Torah, for Judaism. Hat tip to Tomer Dvorah for informing us. Israel facing the biggest, according to the Water Authority, Israel is facing the biggest drought in a century. In a century. That kind of goes exactly along with what we're talking about here. We're talking about we've reached the bottom. This goes hand in hand, as the Torah tells us. Rain, water, is always a sign of, are the Jewish people worthy or not worthy? And we see a world spiraling out of control. Totally out of control. Wherever you look, Europe, America, China, Asia, wherever you want to look. A world that has gone mad. This all brings us to the Jewish holiday coming up in 9 days. The 15th of Shvat, Tu BiShvat, the darkest time of the year. You look outside, it's dark, it's gloomy, it's cold, it's damp. The trees look like they're dead, finito. And then comes the 15th day of Shvat, the new year of the trees. This, dear friends, is right next to our yeshiva. You are looking at an almond tree, the first tree in the land of Israel, fruit tree, that begins to blossom right around this time. The darkest period looks hopeless. So let's learn more. Let's delve right into this amazing holiday. Okay. 6 questions we have as far as the holiday of Tu BiShvat. What in the world is the big deal about this holiday? What makes it a holiday? Was there some type of miracles that occurred? Was there a salvation? Was there a redemption? What are we making a fuss here about? We know that it is forbidden to fast on the 15th day of Shvat. Even if you're a bride and a groom, and Jews have a custom, at least the Ashkenazim, have a custom that the bride and the groom fast. Bride and the groom fast. I'll never forget when I got married. Of course, I fasted, and after the chuppah, the canopy, you're taken into a room to break your fast. They have some cookies there, some cake, something to drink. Anyways, me and my wife, we never got to the cookies and the cakes and the drinks. So we were still fasting after they escorted us out of the room into the hall, into the wedding hall to celebrate. I was able to sit down, wash my hands for bread, have a little piece of bread and a little piece of chicken, and then we were whisked away to dance, taking the dance floor. Never forget it. I was still fasting, you know, I felt like, oh my God, I'm still fasting. So, no fasting. If you get married, maybe it's a great time to get married. You don't have to fast on the 15th day. And if you're a regular person, you're not allowed to fast. We also know that there's no tachanun, a special prayer we don't say on joyous occasions. Number 3, we have a festival fruit meal. We bring in the 7 species that the land of Israel was blessed. Some people bring in 30 different types of fruits. Maybe you'd like to get invited to that kind of fruit party. And this custom of to eat fruits, where's that from? So if we look at the book Shevet Musar, which was written in Turkey, he brings down in chapter 16, he quotes the Talmudic figure Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, of course, was from the school of Shammai. His arguing partner was always Rabbi Yoshua from the house of Hillel. A famous figure in the Talmud. And listen to what he writes. One must be meticulous and eat fruits on Tu BiShvat. This is also brought down in Jewish law, Orach Chaim, chapter 131, Law 16, by the Magen Avram. It's also brought down by the Chafetz Chaim, the Mishnah Brura. So, no one's pulling something out of a hat here. This is deeply rooted, pun intended. This is deeply rooted into the Tu BiShvat experience. So I don't get it. This is question number one. Jewish holidays represent miracles. Let's look at them. On Purim, coming up in a month, we were about to be annihilated by Haman. And we not only were saved, but we also, an amazing occurrence, not in the land of Israel. This did not happen in the land of Israel. Outside the land of Israel, the Jewish people avenged. They went out for 2 days and wiped out the Amalek population in the kingdoms of Achashverosh, the king. I understand, that's a holiday. Passover, okay, we were slaves. We were slaves. For 86 years, we were in Egypt. For 210 years, got it. We were redeemed. We were slaves. Salvation, redemption, got it. Afterwards, we have, the month after that, we have the second Passover for those that were unable to celebrate the first one. Once again, redemption. Got it. Moving forward, 3 weeks later, we have spiritual redemption. We received the Torah on Mount Sinai on the 6th day, or at that time it was the 7th day of the month of Sivan. Got it. Moving forward, we have Rosh Hashanah. We have the day of judgment. Man is judged. Got it. Okay? Understand, we're being judged. God willing, we'll pass the judgment, and we can understand the celebration. Yom Kippur, the fast day, God forgives our sins, many of our sins, some of our sins, a portion, whatever. Got it. Celebrate. Sukkot, miracles for 40 years. We are walking through the desert. With the conditions of desert, we were able to survive. No food, no protection from the elements, from the animals. Hanukkah, spiritual and physical redemption, salvation from the hands of the Syrian Greeks. But Tu BiShvat, say what? What are we celebrating? Question number 2. The famous book, Ohev Yisrael, which was authored by Rabbi Avram Yoshua Heschel, who was from Poland. He lived a very short life. He was born in 1784 and passed away in 1825. In previous classes, we've mentioned some of his prophetic words. You will see them now. He writes the following: Tu BiShvat is the beginning of the period of mercy and compassion. Desirable times. We will receive salvation by our righteous Messiah, who will come speedily in our times. Amen. Mashiach, Messiah, redemption, salvation, what in the world is he talking about? This is not the holiday of Passover, salvation, redemption, Purim, got it, Hanukkah, and you name it. This is Tu BiShvat. What's going on, Rabbi? Those are big words. We know that if you look in the world, there's Arbor Day, which the world celebrates trees. But in most places in the world, that is celebrated on the last Friday of April, when you're already into the second month of spring. All the trees, most of the trees are blooming, blossoming, got it. But we're in the dead winter here. Everything is dead, except, as I pointed out, in Israel, the almond tree is blossoming. This is cold, dead winter. Nothing is alive. What are we celebrating? Number 3, the Kabbalistic book, Secrets of the Torah, called Sefer Yetzirah, brings down, he reveals that the nation of Israel's zodiac sign, Mazal, is in the month of Shvat. Got that? Amazing. We have 12 months. If you would have asked me, I would have given a lot of other months. Probably the last months I would have thought about was Shvat, the month that we're in. The zodiac sign of this month is a pail, Aquarius in English. Aqua, of course, meaning water. The month of Shvat is the pinnacle, is the height of reaching our highest potential, highest aspirations, redemption. This is our month. This is bizarre. This is our month? Shvat? You got to be kidding. To make things worse, if it wasn't bad enough that of all months of the year, our zodiac, our strength is in this month, doesn't the Zohar HaChadash contradict this Sefer Yetzirah, the book of Yetzirah? If we look on Zohar HaChadash, page 92b, we will see there that God divided the year between Jacob and Esav. Esav received 4 months. He received the month of Tevet, which we had a week ago. We just came out of that month. Tammuz, Av, and Shvat. What are you talking about? What is this book, Sefer Yetzirah, talking about? This is the height of our zodiac sign, of our aspirations, our goals are so attainable at this time. These are times of redemption and salvation. These are times of subjugation. These were given over to Esav. We are now in the exile of Esav, of Edom, of Christianity. The 4th exile since the time of the Romans. How do we figure this one out? Question number 5. Why is Tu BiShvat in the Mishnah, Tractate Rosh Hashanah, page 2, side A? Why is it called the New Year of the Tree? It should be New Year of Trees in plural, not singular. Why is it called singular tree? If we look in the Tractate of Rosh Hashanah, we will see that all other New Years are in plural form. The New Year of Kings, the New Year of holidays, the New Year of the sabbatical cycles, the New Year of holidays. Everything's plural except for the tree. What's that all about? Next question. The state of Israel was declared on May 14th, 1948. However, the Knesset, Israel's governing parliament, was established only 8 months later. On February 14, 1949, it was Tu BiShvat. Now, if you look at America, they have the elections on November 5th, and then 2.5 months later, approximately, you have the inauguration of the president. That's 2.5 months, not 8 months. Or perhaps the parliament should have been declared the same day. Was there a divine hand guiding the leadership of Israel 8 months down the road to proclaim Tu BiShvat as the date where the government body of Israel was established? Was there a divine message to the leaders of Israel Since coming back to the land of Israel, we have seen so many divine messages in our face. Rabbi Shmuel Eliyahu has an excellent book, hundreds of pages, prophecies that have come true since the establishment of Israel. So we've received a lot of clear messages. Was this one of them? Last but not least, why in the world on the Jewish Arbor Day, we'll call it, the day which is the New Year of the tree, why in the world are we eating fruit? That is pretty fruity. I have enough trouble understanding why we're celebrating trees when they're all dead. All their leaves do not exist. Outside it's cold. Okay, you want to tell me, listen, this is a great time to plant trees. You know, I have a friend who's a gardener. He tells me, Yehuda, this is a good time to plant fruit trees. This time of year is a good, okay, got it. So we do that. A lot of people plant fruit trees. Or you want to marvel at trees, you want to take walks through the forest, more power to you. What in the world are we doing eating fruits? I hate to lay this one on y'all, but there ain't no fruit on the tree this time of year. Zilch, nada, it doesn't exist. Okay. Stay tuned. Do not touch that dial. We will be back, God willing, at the beginning of next week for the second part of this amazing journey through the real Tu BiShvat will stand up. We'll see all of its glory. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial.